Welcome to round 11 of WMSC 2024 from Silverstone in Great Britain. It's just me this afternoon, so thank you for joining us as we could witness Holland Racing Team secure their second consecutive Constructors title this afternoon. Can Cesario, SCMM or Optimal stop them as the rain threatens Northamptonshire circuit? As you can see, we just have 4 rounds to go. The run-in is well underway. Let's have a quick check on those all-important standings as the season draws to a close. Yanis Volborn leading by 13 points from Lucas Murno. His teammate Pascal Poland's just a further 4 points back. Philip Pushka really needs a good result this afternoon if he's going to keep himself in the fight, whereas Ruven Meshta's win last time out means he's in a bit of a no man's land, but looking a little bit more comfortable in 5th. And João Fernando Lebao rounding out the top 10 after some recent good performances for Magna Motorsports, but the big standout, Gabriel Peckley in 9th for Potenza, and more on what happens for their constructors as a result in a second. But the all-important constructors standings, Holland Racing Team are 50 points clear. After today, there will only be 54 points left, meaning they could secure the constructors this afternoon if they score 4 more points than Scuderia Cesario. So we'll do our best to keep up with that as it happens. In the meantime, the fight for 6th, Potenza Esport taking a big step towards that all-important 6th place. Can Infernal, Magnum, Costec or Velocita reply this afternoon? Now, before we head out to qualifying, which has just started, a quick look at the weather forecast, which is, as ever, issued ahead of time and based on the data of the location in the respective month. And as you can see, both the race and qualifying cloudy, but with a chance of rain in both. So it may affect both sessions. That's as much as we know. Anyway, let's head out to track. I believe they should just be getting up and running for the qualifying session. And we've got plenty to look at this afternoon. 19 drivers joining us this afternoon. I believe the only missing driver this afternoon is for Optimal Esports, Paolo Villami. Otherwise, we've got a pretty full grid with a couple of substitutes, which I'll make you aware of once we get going. Just seeing the timing screen, the session just starting. I think they've had to restart the server because actually it's showing as a practice session again. So bear with us just 1 second and we will be going trackside in just a moment. Hello, Max. Hello, Paul in the chat. Great to see you both. And thank you to everyone who's joining us this afternoon. Robin not with us, so just me. I'll do my best to keep track of everything that is going on as we get started. There is the start-finish straight. I think we are still just waiting for a quick server restart. So yes, at the minute it's still showing as a practice session, but we will be jumping to qualifying hopefully any moment now. Can hear cars moving. Keeping an eye out for any sounds or any changes at the minute. There's a little bit of a flick, and there we go. That's what we were waiting for. Qualifying session about to begin. 15 minutes to decide the grid. As you can see, the start of qualifying looking a little bit brighter than the end of the practice session there. Immediately cars straight out and queuing up at the end of the pit lane. About 15 minutes of qualifying. Remember, there is no Parc Ferme in terms of fuel this year, so everyone can be running light, running fast, and as is often the case, the reigning champion is out first with his teammate just behind, Yanis Volborn of Holland Racing Team, followed by Pascal Polands. And wow, they are streaming round to get that first lap in as quickly as possible. But lots of other news coming as well that has happened between the last race and this one, including new teams, some driver lineup news, update on the fastest lap competition that's running throughout the season. All that to come. Most important thing is how everyone does in this qualifying session. And we did have 19 drivers in the practice session before starting, but at the minute we've only got 17 showing. Try and work out who's not there. As expected, Paolo Villami not taking part. There's a few different names there. A little update just coming from race control. Track a little bit wet, but no rain expected in this session. For Gino Gagliano, you can see a very busy track up ahead of him as everyone is just jostling to get round to get their first laps in. We now go on board with the champion-elect, the reigning champion, Yannis Volbon, as he flies through Abbey. Go on a lap of this quite fabulous Silverstone circuit. One of the few circuits that has adapted and changed throughout the years, but I think hasn't lost any of what makes it brilliant. And as you can see, having to correct a couple of snaps of oversteer through Village and the loop there. Charge down the Wellington straight and towards Brooklands. Down to fourth gear, and the car just worming a little bit there. Running wide. Gently feathering on the throttle out through Woodcut. Charge towards the spectacular right-hander that is Copse. And our two missing people have rejoined. It looks like Philip Pushka and Gonzalez Cativo were the names that disappeared. We're now back up to the expected 19 this afternoon. We fly through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Down the Hanger Straight. Obviously no surprise that this is all going purple at the moment, as Yannis Volbon is very much going to set the benchmark as we charge through Stowe. Down to fourth gear. Making it back up to sixth before hard on the brakes again. Through Club. Towards the start-finish line. And the benchmark is a 1 minute 34. And Poland's immediately beating it 6/10 quicker. It wasn't the best lap as we saw a few snaps of oversteer there. Now see Alfie White, who was a substitute last time out for Velocita. This time in for Magna Motorsports. Harley Self not participating today. Times come thick and fast. Now we have Ruben Meshida charging forward, winning last time out. Been a rough year for Optimal and Ruben Meshida, but a great result last time to see them back on the top step. And Meshida goes second and immediately splits the Holland Racing Team cars. Here comes Gino Gagliano. Only 14th fastest for him for now. And the last of the first run seems to come with Mateus Machado for Potenza. As I mentioned in the intro, Potenza have been superb over the past few races to put them in sixth in that constructors fight. Oh, and it does look like on the screen there, rain has gone up, and we've got about 15% of rain on the radar. So all of a sudden, those early laps will be very, very vital, which probably explains why Gagliano maybe is a little bit off the back. What can Axel Flam do? Does a good job of getting that into 8th, considering it's probably started raining a lot more throughout his lap than others. Now, Philip Pushka, who disconnected and joined the session later, had a bit of a disadvantage. And as you can see, he's 2.3 seconds off in the middle sector as a result, despite going purple in the first sector. So the rain has really, unfortunately, ruined his opening lap, and that is a costly disconnect. It's going to put him down the order. Let's see what he can still do as he slides out of Club. And it is only 14th. Yeah, the weather affecting him there. And Gonzalez Cativo, the other driver who disconnected. This looks very tentative indeed, and a very rare sight from Gonzalez Cativo. we're seeing the yellow wall soft tyres. For those new to WMSC, if you are with us this afternoon, the rule is you are supposed to pick one of two sets of tyres to run for the race weekend. You either got the more aggressive super softs and the mediums, or you can go for the softs and the hards. And what has been the standard is most people have just gone for the super soft and medium combo. It's very rare we've seen a soft and hard runner. And yeah, Gonzalez Cativo jerking that trend and running the softs this afternoon. We'll see where it can get him. At the minute, I don't think any of those tyres I've just listed are ideal. I think it might be intermediate weather unless the rain decides to calm down. We still have just over half of the session to go. And this might be our order unless the rain does start to calm down. Follow Gonzalez Cativo around, just tiptoeing, and that is looking much heavier than it did a few minutes ago. So this is not going to be good news for people who got caught out, like Pushka, like Gajano, SCMM, really getting caught out, unfortunately, by the rain. But it does mean that people like Labau, Fernando Labau, Laflamme, Alfie White, in decent positions there. I'm sure Reuven Meshida won't be too unhappy to line up second alongside Pascal Polens. Benton Reed are currently splitting the Cesarios. And we're joining Daniel Benton Reeder's teammate, Diogo Meneghetti, who is in this afternoon for Denny Vella. Meneghetti only managing 16th, and he's going to see what he can do now on the intermediate tyre. As we saw back in Hungary, and being a newcomer to this series and having to deal with rain is not what you'd call an ideal situation. These cars are very, very grippy, lots of downforce, but in the wet, it almost feels like you've got no grip whatsoever. They are incredibly tricky cars to drive in the wet. I don't envy any of the drivers out there today having to wheel those cars around this circuit. Most of the tyres on the timing sheet now changing to inters, so people I think are still going to go out and try and get some times in on the inters. Interesting rain update. That 15% has now dropped to 0%. And I think you can see now on the screen, you can't see the drops of rain. So the question is, in the remaining 6 minutes, will the track dry enough? There's already a little bit of a dry line. It was only a shower, it has to be said. So the question is, will it dry enough for people to be able to get back and beat those times set at the beginning of the session before it started raining? Follow Alexander Knežević around. We do have some news about his future. Confirmed to me by their team boss, Max Heyman, that Caneza will leave Cesario at the end of the season, a mutual decision, and there's going to be a new lineup for Cesario announced in Brazil, where also Cesario are going to run a special livery as well, sporting Ayrton Senna, Luke Smirno, their driver, a Brazilian. It'll be a very special livery for his home race. But yes, no word on if Murno and Cesario will continue together, but obviously they are the challengers, the main challengers this season, so I would be surprised if they were to part ways as well, but we will get confirmation on what their lineup will be in Brazil. And we don't know where Caneza will end up, but he will not be with Cesario 2025. In the meantime, Victor B is out there, back on the softs, as someone has a moment there in the Potenza. Again, just hoping that the track dries enough so they've got the grip to do it. And as you can see, through Maggots and Beckett, it still hasn't quite gripped up yet. to be able to take those at full force. B, oh my goodness, B. Back out ahead of that Potenza. You can see visibly there's a little bit of brightness on the screen. Whether the track will dry up enough. Radar on the wetness saying 0 to 15% track wetness. Obviously some parts will be dry, others not so much. And as you can see, Victor B is having to tiptoe it through the final corner of the circuit. Going to try and get a lap down, and obviously everyone's going to have to be thinking now, right, when do we commit to a final run? When do we go for this? You can see he's had to lift off heavily through Abbey. It's very tentative stuff from Victor B, and as you can see, a snap of oversteer. I think that's mainly from applying the power and just there not being the grip. It's a glorious blue sky ahead of him. Unfortunately, it might not dry the track up enough for anyone to improve. 3 minutes to go in this session, and B goes around. Between Brooklands and Luffield there. Just over half of the drivers are out on track at the moment. I think there's a few people not sure whether to risk it or not. You've just got to put the car out on track and give it a go, really. Because you certainly don't want to be caught out being in the pits if the track does happen to be dry enough and people suddenly start improving their times. You have to say it looks unlikely, but still some time left. Philip Pushka is one of the people, though, that will be hoping that the track does grip up enough to be able to set a lap in the dry. Missing the start of the session due to an unfortunate disconnect. Both him and Gonzalez Cativo is down in 17th. Coming through. Let's see how quickly he can fire through Maggots and Beckett's. That's looking a little bit more grippy. As you can see, there's the dry line looking more defined. It's just if you happen to get off that dry line, things may all of a sudden get a bit more precarious. And as you can see, sliding out of Chapel, down the Hanger Straight. This is going to be the lap. It's a now or never situation, and we have a Velocita off, and I think that's a front wing missing as well. Whoever that was, in they go. And I think that might have been Jendrik Beerhoff. And that might be his session over. But here comes Philip Pushka. So immediately not looking super confident. Out of club, down the Hamilton Straight, through Abbey we go. He's trying to commit. And as you can see, the grip just isn't there. And he's had to call it a day. Now we see João Fernando Labau. And we get a glimpse of Magnum Motorsports sporting a special livery of their own for their home Grand Prix. Usually all black and gold, reminiscent of the John Player Special Lotuses back in the day. The Union Jack on their cars. There's a few people attempting final laps just in case. We'll see what they can do. But here comes Axel Laflamme. I think there was a Holland Racing Team car just ahead of him. Let's see if anyone can improve as the last 15 seconds of the session runs through. Flam doing a little bit better than Pushka did through Abbey. But you can still tell that there is a slight tiptoeing, tentativeness as they head through. Checkered flag is out, so everyone who has not crossed the line by now is not getting another lap in. I think that is Yannis Volborn just ahead of Laflamme. And tiptoeing through Brooklands and Luffield. Here is Volborn, 2.4 seconds down. It doesn't look like there's going to be many improvements. We'll follow these guys round and see if anyone pulls the proverbial rabbit out of the hat. Just tell the speed they're able to carry through Maggots and Beckett's always not the best, and we have a Potenza off, and very nearly a big collision between Axel Laflamme and that Potenza. Fortunately staying out of the way. Does Volborn come through to complete the lap? Unsurprisingly, no. I think that is our session as good as done. I think it was Machado who was off in the wall. Machado coming in. There's a handful of cars still out on track, and I believe the last car that is out on track is the pole sitter himself. Now, Gajano is going to come through, but as you can see from his split times, he's unlikely to improve. Misha Smith, in the meantime, having a moment in the background. And Pascal Polens himself doesn't feel threatened. He comes in, and I think that will very much be that. So, it was all about getting out and getting your lap in early. That's essentially what's decided the order this afternoon. And pole position goes to Pascal Polens. And is everyone in off the track now? So, pole position for Pascal Polens by 0.6 of a second from Ruven Meshida, splitting the Holland Racing Team cars. Lucas Murno is in 4th, alongside the man he's trying to hunt down in the championship. And we've just had word from Race Control that Maurizio Quercio has got a 3-place grid penalty. So we'll see what that puts him down to in a second. But in the meantime, it's Benton Reader from Knezovic, from João Fernando Lebao, Axel Laflamme rounding out the top 8, ahead of Alfie White and Gabriel Peckley. Victor B is 11th. Mauricio Quercio is 12th, but as just mentioned, he's going to lose 3 places for that grid penalty for blocking Philip Pushka. Misha Smith ahead of the aforementioned Pushka. Mateus Machado, substitute Diogo Meneghetti ahead of Cativo, Gajano, and Jendrik Beerhoff rounding out the grid. So the race is going to start in just under 10 minutes' time. We're going to have a short break, and then we'll be back for Lights Out. I do hope you'll join me. See you soon. Welcome back to Silverstone. We are just waiting for the cars to line up on the grid, and we will get going for this 2024 running of the British Grand Prix in WMSC. Just waiting for the cars to appear on track, and we will set off. Early forecast at the beginning of the session. As you can see, the sky is grey, but rain currently at 0%, track wetness at 0 to 5%, so there are some wet parts of the track. Pascal Polens took a rain-affected pole position ahead of Ruven Meshter, Yanis Volborn and Lucas Murno, those guys making sure they got fast laps in before the rain started falling. Daniel Benson-Reader 5th ahead of Alexander Knezovic, whereas row 4 is João Fernando Lebao and Axel Laflamme. Row 5, Alfie White alongside Gabriel Peckley, with Victor B next to Mauricio Quercio. Oh, and the lights are about to go. The revs come up, the lights come on, and off we go. And already there's a car sliding off at the back, taking evasive action, and Ruven Meshter is having to fight side by side through Abbey they go, trying to keep Yanis Volborn behind. As he managed it, he's going to have to try and outbrake him in to Village, and I think he's managed to do it, but now he's going to switch back, and I think Yanis Volborn might just have taken that position heading down the Wellington Straight for the very first time, and he's slightly edged Ruven Meshter off track. And as it ports, oh, there's a big collision in the background. Big accident by the looks of it. Unless that was lag, there might be some issues with people in the background, but everyone else seems to be through. But that is a vital position for Yanis Volborn to take, and immediately the orange wall that so often occurs at the front has been re-established, and Meshida and Myrna will immediately be itching to break that up once again through Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. That early fight has helped Pascal Polens get an all-important 1 second gap to his teammate already, in very important stuff for him. Diving out the way to try and break the toe. Can Reuven Meshida fight back? He's tucked right up under the wing. He's going to look and make a move. Down at the bottom of Hanger Straight into Stowe. But he's not been able to get it done there. And immediately the fighting begins. We have a yellow in Sector 3. But at the minute, everyone streaming through, you can see everyone seems to have gotten away okay. However, one of the big names that I've noticed that was up higher was Axel Laflamme, and he's now at the back. So he may have been a part of that big contact we saw in the background in lap 1. Fernando Labau and Laflamme in, they were 7th and 8th respectively, and they're now at the back. They've obviously had some kind of contact. Get back that in a moment, but in the meantime, we're joining Philip Pushka, who's right on the back of Victor B. Obviously, Pushka disconnected at the start of qualifying, missed it, and then couldn't get a lap in before the rain started falling. He's fighting to recover, and he's up to 9th. It's a good start for him so far. And he's immediately going to try and hunt down Gabriel Peckley. In the meantime, Reuven Meshida still right up behind Yanis Volborn. The gap up to almost 2 seconds between Polens and the cars behind. But Meshida's got to keep the pressure up, because if he doesn't, he's immediately going to be under pressure, I imagine, from Lucas Murno, who's just in behind. Wants to stay within that second mark for the all-important DRS. Charge down the Hanger Straight once again. Remember, the threat of rain is present this afternoon. Let's have a little bit of a replay of what happened. And here is João Fernando Labau, and this happened a lot later than I thought. Oh, and Labau has just gone straight into the back of Axel Laflamme, and that is a big, big accident. Looked like that was on Labau, that one, from first glance. And yeah, Mateus Machado also seems to have been caught up in something. 3 laps down, he's showing as. It almost seems like he may have DNF'd or disconnected, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, how quickly has Philip Pushka gotten up to Gabriel Peckley? And the race direction has agreed with my initial assessment of that incident. It's a 10-second stop-go penalty for João Fernando Labau for not just the collision with Axel Laflamme, but also an unsafe rejoin off the back of it as well as he dived into the pits. So his start of the afternoon, not the best, and it's just gotten a hell of a lot worse. In the meantime, Gino Gajano also trying to recover from a low start, dives in front of Gonzalez Cativo ahead of Maggots and Beckett, and on the back of Maurizio Quercio next. SCMM, they're on the recovery trail this afternoon. And yes, it does look like, as mentioned in the chat, that it was a disconnect for Machado, which is why he was showing his DNF. So he is back in and racing now. That's a shame. But as we say, it is one of the occupational hazards of sim racing. The Dallas Cativo running the soft tyres, and we haven't really spoken much about tyres and tyre strategy throughout this season, because mainly in terms of the tyre choices that people make, you have to pick one of the 2 sets of tyres, either the super softs and the mediums, or the softs and the hards, and pretty much everyone goes for that more aggressive set. But Gonzalez Cativo this afternoon is using the soft and the hard. Now, that would typically mean he has to run both compounds during the race, but with the threat of rain, if it does rain, and it is a wet race, he may not have to run the hard tyre at all. And I believe it's the case that the hard tyre is very durable, but it is just very uncompetitive. So if anything, he might be quite happy that that's the case. I wonder what his thinking was behind making this this decision for this weekend. Binging to see how he does. At the minute, it does seem like he is going backwards, and he's got Meneghetti now, the substitute for Better Julia, right behind him. They've both got DRS, but Meneghetti is tucked right behind. He's going to have a look up into Stowe. Little bit of touch of wheels there, but Meneghetti not afraid on his debut to give this a go. And some good fighting from the pair of them. Oh, and some good confirmation there from Paul Muller, team boss of both Infernal Void and Velocita. Hoping for rain with those tyres on this afternoon. Obviously, they're going to be slightly more durable than the Super Soft. There is a bit of a split. Most people have started on the mediums. The highest running Super Soft runner is Alfie White, but in the meantime, though, on the attack, Gonzalez Cativo, he's going to go round the outside through Brooklands. Can he hang it out there? Not quite this time. He's swarming over the back, but that is going to leave him vulnerable to Meneghetti, who's taking the more conventional line through that complex. Through Woodcut we go, towards Copse. Is he going to have a look up the inside? It's a dangerous place to try and make a move, but he bails out of it. No 2021 recreations there this time. Meneghetti right on the back through Maggots and Beckett's. And stay with him, he's going to look at again potentially, and there's a little bit of a slide there from Cativo. Mid-corner. DRS open. Quercio, a little bit of a sitting duck as he doesn't have DRS. This is the chance for Cativo. He's going to get through. Meneghetti is going to get stuck behind. Oh, but no! Quercio has misjudged his braking zone completely and just gone straight into the back of Cativo. And now, side by side, Infernal Void and Velocita through the corner they go, and he loses out big time there, and I imagine that is going to be a little bit of a penalty from Mauricio Quercio. I think that's very similar to the Fernando Labau incident we saw earlier. And Cativo now having to do all that again. You're going to have to, first of all, get past Diogo Meneghetti. Oh, and immediately, Quercio bailing out! Oh my goodness! Couldn't tell if that was a mistake or a deliberate decision, but he's been a slow car across the middle of the track, and he's been collected by... Was that one of the other Velocitas? It was Misha Smith. And his second race for Velocita. And that was a big, big collision. And Quercio going from bad to worse there. So let's have a look. So we come through the loop. Gets a little bit wide onto the grass. And yeah, he's just bailed out of it. And then just slid across track. And Mauricio Quercio has been black flagged as a result. That's incredible. It's not a penalty. It is a straight disqualification for Mauricio Quercio. He is going to be asked to leave and escape. As you can see, he's just trying to get the car round to the pit lane. And as you can see, he's sliding all over the place. I think slam the brakes on and escape. And he's been asked again to escape. But in the meantime, with all the drama going down further down the order, as you can see, Pascal Polens has put in a sizable little gap now for this top three. But Yanis Volborn under pressure from Ruben Meshida and Lucas Murno. They've just dropped Daniel Benson-Reader, who's in the back of your picture now. Oh, and Meshida getting a little bit out of shape from Copse, and that's not going to help him line up an attack coming down the hanger straight, and if anything, it leaves him more vulnerable to Lucas Murno. Quercio, in the meantime, has escaped and DNF'd, black flagged for those incidents we just saw. Our first retirement of the day, incredibly, despite that poor entry, or the poor exit, I should say, from Copse, right tucked up under the rear wing by the end of the hanger straight. There is a chance for Ruben Meshida, but Lucas Murno is right there as well. All of these guys now on the same tyre, all running the medium. I imagine both trying to wait and bridge the gap until rain comes. They are expecting it to fall. But is Murno just waiting? Because you think, you know, do you work together? Because if you get caught in a fight with third place, it allows second place to slip away. So is Lucas Murno just biding his time? Is he going to be a willing spectator of a battle that we've seen many times before in WMSC? Ruben Meshida versus Yannis Volborn. Very important that Meshida gets the run through Cops. You can see, oh, he's a little bit wide, but a much tidier run through the corner. Where the differences in car design philosophy come into play, really. There's the Holland Racing team with a high downforce design is going to be brilliant through Cops, whereas Ruben Meshida's Optimal Esports car is a more average and balanced design, which might explain why the gap closes so quickly, especially with the assistance of DRS down the Hangar Straight. Meantime, Murno just watching, just waiting, pick up any pieces. In the meantime, though, Pascal Polens is doing a fabulous job after getting pole. He's now just managed the start beautifully, and a fastest lap, putting him 4 seconds clear of this group of cars. Remember, there is a fastest lap competition going throughout the season. No points for fastest lap in this series. As in the meantime, Ruben Meshida having half a glance there down the Wellington Straight. It's all about getting this next complex of corners as tidy as possible, being with a chance down the Hangar Straight. But yes, as mentioned, there is a fastest lap competition, not for points, but there is a cash prize, and at the minute that is being won by Yannis Volborn. 5 fastest laps. Ruben Meshida has 1, Pascal Polens has 1, Lucas Murno has 3. Pascal Polens currently holding the fastest lap for today. In the meantime, the closing speed once again. He just needs to be a few tenths closer coming out of Chapel, and Ruben Meshida might have a chance. Or can he set something up down the Wellington Straight? A bit of a waiting game now. I feel like Meshida could get this move and could try and launch an attack on Polens. Volborn just quick enough to stay ahead. Meantime, Victor B, getting very out of shape. Coming through Abbey. Grinding on the curb a little bit there, but fortunately managed to keep it under control. Peckley having dropped down to 10th. He is looking to try and make a move down here, but he's slightly too far back. DRS not quite giving him enough speed to pull alongside. But to be currently the highest running Infernal Void car. Teammate just a couple of cars back, having recovered from that slightly worrying. And Meshida's got a chance. He's alongside. He managed to get alongside down the Hangar Straight, but unfortunately, Volborn has hung it out through there. But they're going to go side by side through Club. Meshida has the inside, and he's done it. Incredible. And Murno is now going to get on the attack. Told you he was waiting to pick up the pieces. He's going to have a look to the inside of Abbey, but not this time. And now Ruben Meshida is ahead. And the interesting thing is, Can he stay ahead now he's there? Because immediately he's going to have 2 cars with DRS behind him. Down to the Wellington straight we go. Is Murno immediately going to try and get on the attack of Yannis Volborn? You can see Poland's just ahead. Here comes Yannis Volborn. He's not in position this time. But as we mentioned, that higher downforce car is going to have a better chance through this section, so he might be able to line something straight back up in a lap's time. I mean, in just a few corners' time, in fact, down the Hangar Straight. We will get that pass for you again in a second, but for now we will stick with the front 3. Is there going to be a right to reply instantly for Yannis Volborn? Look at how planted the car is through Maggots and Beckett's. The question is, has it got the straight line speed? He does have DRS immediately. Ruben Meshida going defensive. He's going to go to the extreme inside. Back across track they go, and it's just enough this time. But I don't think Ruben Meshida is going to be able to break away, which means the tension's going to continue. But look at how close Lucas Murno is. Question is, does Murno hold station now, or does he try and look at making a move on Yannis Volborn? And all the while, this is allowing Pascal Polans to just slip away. The gap over 6 seconds now. Currently lapping about 0.2 faster than everyone. Down the Wellington straight we go once again. And I think Yannis Volborn knows he's quicker in bin time. Philip Pushka, whose recovery has been fabulous. He's now chasing Daniel Benton-Reader. And could Pushka make himself a factor in this battle? This is just 5 seconds behind. And especially if the rain is going to fall. Try and keep an eye on both battles for you as best we can. But again, it's a superb run through the high downforce complex that is Maggots and Beckett's. We're on board with Yannis Volborn. It's closer, closer, closer. Is it going to be close enough to make a move? Not this time. Again, it's the slight difference in design philosophy of the cars that's just making it a difficult pass. We saw how it was favouring one car over the other when Meshida was behind, and now it's the other way around. That straight line speed is just stopping Volborn. Murno is the closest man in the championship to Yannis Volborn. At the very least, he's going to want to try and get ahead of his championship rival. And we do have Gino Caggiano in the pits. I'm not sure why. Philip Pushka in the meantime, though. Down the end of the Wellington straight into Brooklands, and he gets the move done this time. Can he get on a push now and try and catch these 3? It would be a hell of a recovery if he can put himself a factor in this battle for P2. And Machado is now DNF'd as well. I wonder if that is just connection again, or he's decided not to run, being a couple of laps down. Garner, in the meantime, is back out from what must have been a planned pit stop. I think a few of the super soft runners have, or one of the super soft runners has gone in. I think Kativo has also done a stop. I'm sure all the medium runners will be biding their time in the hope that rain falls. The only driver, as you can see now, in the top 10 who isn't on the mediums is the substitute Alfie White. His second substitute role in a row, but his first for Magnum, currently in the top 8. Not too bad. And as mentioned in the comments, yeah, Diogo Meneghetti is doing a very solid job in 11th in an interesting fight with Victor B at the moment. Obviously, having inherited a couple of places with Giuliano and Cativo having stopped. So here comes the all-important run through Maggots and Beckett's once again. And this time, look at how close Volbon is on entry. And he's going to be very close again. It's about getting the power down, but as you can see, just a little bit of a better exit there from Ruben Meshida. DRS is going to be open, and he looks a little bit further away this time. And he's not going to be able to make the move. The gap, as ever, creeping up to Pascal Polens. Polens has already won one race this season in Hungary. It was also a rain-affected race, and then managed second last time out in Italy. Could be on for another win, but that's a slightly entrance there. Scrubbed off a lot of speed from Ruben Meshida. And Paul just not in the position to be able to benefit. And now, coming down the Wellington Straight, he's just not close enough now, Yannis Volborn. Yeah, that entry to Village was not ideal for Ruben Meshida, but fortunately, because of where both cars were positioned, Volborn was not able to benefit. Through Copse we go. And Murno seems very tucked up behind this time. And Murno has almost thinks about going side by side through Maggots and Beckett. And now all of a sudden, attention is diverted. Unfortunately, the DRS probably isn't going to be enough, considering just ahead Volborn has it as well. But Murno is closer, and this is good though. If he can unsettle Yannis Volborn in the hope that Volborn suddenly loses DRS, that puts Murno on the front foot for the attack. Not quite enough this time. This is a battle that is not super explosive in terms of lots of moves happening, but it's brimming with tension in the sense that it's just waiting for someone to put a wheel wrong, to get a good entrance, a bad exit. All of a sudden, it can flip around. It's already happened once. Meshida getting past Volborn. Down the Hanger Straight and into Stowe. Question is, will it happen again? Will Volborn get the place back? Or does Lucas Murno insert himself into the top three? Oh, there's a spin! Oh, Meshida's lost it! Meshida has lost it on the exit of Copse and Polens. Just Polens off there for a second as well. Incredible. That all happens in the blink of an eye. And I said it was about when someone puts a wheel wrong. Well, I wasn't expecting it to happen quite like that. Here is Ruben Meshida on the run down to Copse. And it's just on the exit on the curb. And yeah, he's just gotten on the curb there. And he has a big spin. Thankfully, no one gets collected in that. But that's huge. Huge moment. So, moment to breathe. Gabriel Peckley now fighting to stay ahead of Meneghetti. Really interesting fight coming through here. B has just passed Gabriel Peckley. As we spot that, teammate Mateus Machado in the chat. Good to see you. Sorry about this afternoon, Mateus. Sorry to hear about your disconnect, and sorry you weren't able to carry on. In the meantime, Alfie White coming out of the pits, sporting that special livery for Magnum. Had a good afternoon so far, was running in the points before the pit stops. And Alfie White's on the super soft tyre. So he has now run... Sorry, he has stuck on the super soft tyre, I should say, because he was on the super soft before. So be interesting to see if he's, again, just hoping that there's going to be some rain soon. A few more pit stops taking place further down the order. But here is Diogo Meneghetti, who has been quietly impressive, I think, so far in his debut. And he's got DRS on Gabriel Peckley, who's been absolutely fabulous this season generally. And Meneghetti into 9th. Oh, and Peckley loses it. Peckley just having a bit of a slide. And he decides, I'm going to go in and change tyres. Maybe that was a sign it's coming over. In the meantime, Lucas Murno, the end of the Wellington Straight. They go side by side and they cross paths into Brooklands. And now, how much of a sitting duck is Yannis Volborn without the help of DRS to defend against Lucas Murno? Murno seems to be swarming all over the back of Volborn. Through Copse we go. We know how good the Holland Racing Team car is through this section. Can he stay close enough down the Hanger Straight? Out we go, just about half a second as they cross the line. DRS open, trying to get as much of the slipstream as he can. And he's not going to get it this time. And Meshida has lost out massively. Meshida losing out. He's down in 5th behind Philip Pushka. How much they can get themselves back into it. Oh, and there was a car just off the road there. Bella Cheetah, that was. Because it was orange, for a moment I wondered, oh my goodness, was that Yannis Volborn? But no, Jendrik Beerhoff, the last car running so far today. In the meantime, Meshida is in. It does seem like the medium tyres, after about 20 laps, have had their day. A little bit of an undercut maybe to close the gap for Reuven Meshida. Is he going to come out? And what tyre has he put on is the big question. And it does look like the super soft. In the meantime, Alfie White has just set the fastest lap on those fresh super softs. Showing some good performance this afternoon. Both White and Meneghetti looking quietly good today. Let's see if they can get some points out of it. That would be very interesting to see. But Alfie White breaking the previous fastest lap by about 2/10. Obviously, the car's running a bit lighter. There's no refueling. So they will get quicker and quicker throughout the race. In the meantime, Reuven Meshida has come out into some traffic and he's chasing the aforementioned Meneghetti. He will want to clear these as quickly as possible in the hope that his fresh tyres help him shut the gap to the guys up ahead. Meshida makes light work of Meneghetti. Got Victor B next. And I keep mentioning, oh, there's a threat of rain. But it is only a threat, as you can see. It looks quite bright now. A bit of sunshine. Meshida is just immediately climbing all over the back of B. Going to be losing time all through this section. And B wide. Is he going to try and have a look into Village? He does, and that's a very, very nice move indeed. Couldn't even wait for the Wellington Straight. And Meshida is now charging forward. He's just gained another place for Daniel Benton Reader going in the pits. Be interesting to see how the top guys react. In the meantime, this fight continues. Oh, and there's a mistake! A mistake from Yanis Volborn. Oh, and he's tried to block over there, and I would say he's pushed Murno off track, but he uses the DRS. Oh my goodness. And I'd say that is just over the line there from Yanis Volborn. He's made the mistake coming out of Chapel and then tried to slam the door when the car is very much firmly alongside. I'd be surprised if that wasn't a warning for Yanis Volborn. But Murno takes the place. We'll get a replay of how that started in a moment. But Volborn clearly not wanting to give that up. He knows that this is his main rival for title number 2. And Murno is ahead. So through the loop we go. Is he going to try and come straight back? Climbing all over the back, down the Wellington Straight. Looks very tucked up underneath. But it looks like Murno's got DRS there, which is odd. I wouldn't have said he was within a second of the Magnum ahead of him. But that has allowed him to defend. Here we go. So, into Maggots and Beckett's, which, as we've said, the car's been so good through there, and is he slightly unsettled by the back marker there? I think he is. And then he just gets on the curb on the exit. So the back marker just getting in the way, and then that defence, I would say, is somewhat over the line. And Murno almost has to sort of bang his way back on track to be like, hey, I'm here. Give me the space. Now, down the Hangar Straight we go once again. And Murno able to hang on this lap. But this battle seems far from done, and if anything, seems fierier, and they've gone in together. It almost looked like they were going to dummy each other out of it. I think Volborn, there was a little twitch there. I think he was going to carry on, but then saw Murno was going in and was like, I'm coming in as well. And there has been a last warning issued to Yanis Volborn for that, and I think rightly so. But hopefully they can keep it clean, because otherwise it's been a very good battle. In the meantime, Pascal Poland's in the pits ahead, and it's all changing around up front. Philip Pushka has stayed out and has now inherited the lead. Here come the pits, and oh, he's managed to jump him! Incredible! Yanis Volborn retakes it in the pits. And of the many things, of the unique things about this series, obviously all the cars have their own design philosophies, they have their own development paths, and one of the things that can also be upgraded is your pit crew. Not all pit stops are created equally in this series, and is that an indication that Holland Racing Team have upgraded their pit crew a little bit more than Scuderia Cesario, because they've managed to jump him in the pits? Incredible. And the fight resumes. So, charging towards Cops we go. Murno is right behind it. You can see there's a little bit of energy between these two. A little bit of needle from that confrontation. Charge through Maggots and Beckett's. There is a back marker ahead once again. In the meantime, Alfie White just overtaken there by Daniel Benton Reader. Oh, and White going a little bit wide. Back in the points. In the meantime, Murno having a look up the inside into Stowe, having to bail out of it. Coming up to the halfway point of the race, it's been pretty constant battling between at least two sets of cars at some point. And it looks like it's going to continue for the foreseeable. Incredible stuff. So, down the DRS line we go. Wellington Straight. Volborn very, very close indeed. There's a Vela cheater off in the background. In the meantime, Volborn tries to spring a late move on Murno. Doesn't quite get it this time. Oh, sorry, I've got completely confused. That wasn't Murno. I got confused. Oh, wait, when did Murno get ahead? It's not. It's Philip Pushka who stayed out. He's yet to stop, which means Pascal Poland is going to be on much fresher mediums for this fight. So, through Maggots and Beckett's we go, and I don't imagine Pushka's going to have much to fight back with, because you can see his tyres are not going to giving as much grip through that very high grip section. But interestingly, to the outside goes Poland's, but he's able to take the racing line, and very nicely done. Poland's re-inherits the lead. Right, the fight that I thought I was seeing is now the fight that we are seeing, and Murno looks to the inside towards Stowe. And incredibly, they go side by side, but they hold position. Now, what is interesting, there is a diversion of tyre strategy up the top. Pascal Poland stayed on the medium tyre while these two are the super softs. And my goodness, Murno looked like he was almost trying to create a little bit of space through Abbey, which is not the place you think to do it. I definitely think these two now are slightly driving with their adrenaline levels very high after that first duel, that first flashpoint down the Hanger Straight. And this just isn't going to let up. And they've got a Velocita in the way now. Is hopefully going to dive out the way through Woodcut. Hasn't yet. It needs to get to the inside. It's whoever it is, and they do. Two cops go, our two championship contenders. And remember, as mentioned at the start of the show, the Constructors' Championship could be decided this afternoon if Holland Racing Team score 4 more points than Cesario. And as it stands, I believe that's the case. Knezovic currently in 8th in the other Cesario, then obviously Murno, your other guy on screen right now. Breathless afternoon. Not even had chance to mention, obviously, the confirmation that Alfie White's going to drive for the rest of the season for Velocita. Thanks for that, Paul. That's great to hear. Alfie's done a really good job. Shame that Jendrik doesn't have the time to race for the rest of the season, but great you've got clearly a very promising substitute in there. And speaking of promising substitutes, is Diogo Meneghetti on his debut. I think he's just gotten past Gabriel Peckley once again. In the meantime, as mentioned, here is Jendrik Beerhoff, currently up in behind one of the Magnums. Now Fernando Labau. I mentioned at the top of the show, there's also news about the new teams coming in next season, which is related, incidentally, to Fernando Labau. But honestly, I'm afraid to start talking about it, as any moment, any one of the fights we've got going could suddenly burst into life. We've got Alfie White just 6/10 behind Benson Reader. We've got Murno, less than, again, still on the back of Yanis Volborn. It's happening all over the track, and we'll do our best to keep up with it as we go. But it's incredible. Superb afternoon, and we are now just reaching, we've just passed, in fact, the halfway point of the race. And breathe. Pascal Poland's leads from Philip Pushka. Pushka yet to stop critically. Doing an excellent job nursing those medium tyres since the start of the race. And he's just ahead of that fight between Yanis Volborn and Lucas Murno. Ruven Meshida, who was running second, having a big slide and has fallen down to 5th, trying to catch up once again. We are expecting rain. In fact, radar is showing 5% of rain now. The rainfall might be about to start, which means Philip Pushka might have timed this to perfection, because everyone's had to do at least one stop to change their dry tyres. But he may be able to just switch straight onto intermediates should the rain keep falling. And remember, he started down the order in, I think, 14th? Yeah, 14th. Because of obviously getting caught out by the rain in qualifying. Now he could be using it to his advantage to get back up there in the race. In the meantime, Murno incredibly close on the exit of Chapel. DRS is open. Oh, and they touch, and they hit. Oh, and they're both off. And it was just a bit of heavy defence gone wrong. And it's a shame it had to end like that. But Murnau is third, Volborn fourth, and I wonder how the stewards will rule on that, or if they will see that as a racing incident. We'll have a look again in a second. In the meantime, Alfie White is still up behind Daniel Benton-Reader. The substitute looking to do his very best for Magnum Motorsports. Moving to Velocita for the remainder of the season. But here's that incident again. So, there's a little bit of snaking to break the toe, and I think it's just a racing incident, unfortunately. Murnau goes one way. Albon goes with him. He tries to change direction and get out from behind him. It looks like rear wheel to front wing. They have contact, and they both go off the track. So I think that is unfortunately a racing incident. And it was getting a little bit touchy after that first altercation between them. And Akiri in the chat, quite right, very lucky not to hit any walls there. And lucky they're both able to continue. None of them have jumped in the pit, so it seems like they don't have damage to contend with. In the meantime, we join this battle now with Alfie White, just trying to reel in Daniel Benton-Reader. Benton-Reader's had a fabulous season for Better Julia, with him and Denny Vella starting the season strong. Vella has missed a few races in this latter part of the season, but Meneghetti made a good case for himself. But here is Yannis Volborn now, so he is about 7 seconds up the road. From Murnau now. Going to look to try and bring that gap down. As you can see, there are drops of rain on the car. Still 5% rain. Track wetness has gone up to 0 to 5%. So it's very light, very gentle. I don't think they're going to be looking at changing tyres just yet, but I think in 5 or 6 laps, the grip might start to go. There's usually 2 of us on these streams. Robin not with us, unfortunately, this afternoon. But we'll be back next time. But I want to thank you all for joining us so far this afternoon for what has been a very eventful race at Silverstone. And we still have just under half of it to go. But no word from the stewards. I think that has been adjudged as a racing incident. But now Murnau 1.3 back from Philip Pushka. So, this is really interesting for Philip Pushka because obviously he is hoping to bridge the gap to the wet weather. And he can switch on to the Inters. And he's essentially trying to avoid having to stop on his dry tyres until that point. What that does mean is, though, Lucas Murnau has a lot fresher super soft, so with the tyre deficit, I imagine Murnau is going to make quite light work of this. Not got DRS this time around, but he will do by the Hangar Straight. You can see the amount of additional grip in those tyres. The gap is closing constantly through Brooklands and Luffield. And there has just been, I would say, a very debatable penalty. Lucas Murnau has been given a 5-second time penalty added on to his time at the end of the race for hitting Yannis Volborn on the straight. In the meantime, Lucas Murnau, at the scene of that incident, makes very light work of Philip Pushka. So, Volborn now knows he just needs to get within 5 seconds of Lucas Murnau. The gap is currently about 8. In the meantime, Philip Pushka has gone in. And it will be very interesting to see what tyre choice he makes now. We will go back around in just a moment to that decision. I'd love to get your thoughts in chat. I think there's already some thoughts coming in about that penalty. I think that's slightly harsh. I understand why, because usually in a collision, the car from behind is the one at fault. To me, it was a racing incident. I'd love to get your thoughts. And yeah, so far, it shouldn't have been a penalty is the leading theory. Now, it does look like Philip Pushka has gone to the super softs. I think he's admitted it's too early. And unfortunately, João Fernando Lebao has picked up a drive-through penalty. That's his second penalty of the day after a 10-second stop go earlier for his collision with Axel Laflamme. And he's picked up a drive-through for ignoring blue flags. It's a rough afternoon for João Fernando Lebao. In the meantime, Gonzalez Cativo getting very, very close. He's still running those soft tyres. And he's currently in a fight with Gabriel Peckley. Here comes Cativo. And Cativo's recently stopped again, so I think his tyres are slightly fresher. And up the inside we go. It is a rare sight to see the yellow wall tyres on these cars. That great little duel there through Brooklands and Luffield. They hold again, and Cativo is going to have a look into Cops. He seems to be a little bit quicker, but he's going to have to bail out of that. Very hard to make a move stick there. These two dueling round the lap, and as you can see, the rain looking... It's still showing 5%, but it certainly looks a lot heavier from that shot. You can see it's looking very misty as well. Yeah, I can also see why the penalty was given. I think it's harsh personally. I think, you could go racing into them, but if you were going to give a penalty, it's the car moving behind, and I think it is more on Murnau. But yeah, I don't think I would have given that. I think it's an unfortunate racing incident, but this is the thing. It's always open to interpretation. And have to do the best you can. And Cativo, not the first person we've seen pull a skateboard grind on that curb this afternoon. I think it was, in fact, the other Infernal Void of Victor B doing it. Infernal Void Racing playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater this afternoon. Speaking of Victor B, he's up behind Gino Gagiano. Both running the medium tyres. 20 laps to go. Still expecting the rain to get a little bit heavier. Oh, and B having to bail out of it there, going around the curb on the exit of Cops. How much quicker is he through Maggots and Beckett's? Can he try and set up some sort of move? Yeah, the remainder of what was the blue sky over the track earlier ahead of us, but he's got the DRS. He's going to get very close as you try and pull it around the outside of Stowe. Oh, they touch. They have to bail out of that one, unfortunately. There's clearly still plenty of grip. They're still driving very confidently. B is looking a little bit racy. He's trying. Get into 9th place. Yep, completely agree, Max. It's a tough decision, and as much as I've got my opinion on it, I can completely see the alternative opinion on the incident as well. So it's a tough one. It's a shame the fight ended that way, regardless of whether it was a penalty or not, it has to be said, because it was a great battle up to that point. In the meantime, Gabriel Peckley in, and he's gone for the super soft. So again, an indication of the amount of grip that's still out there. Rain is falling, but track is still essentially dry. Peckley and Bertenza on a great point scoring run, but it's not looking like it's going to be this afternoon. But I still envisage a few more twists in this one, potentially, especially if the rain is going to fall. Oh, and sorry, there's an update, and actually, it demonstrates the opposite, as Gabriel Peckley is on the intermediate tyre. I think there's two people out there on the intermediate tyre from what I can see on the radar. We have Gabriel Peckley in 13th and Axel Laflamme in 14th. So a couple of people have decided to make the switch. In the meantime, Alfie White still keeping pace with Daniel Benton-Reader. Alfie White has been on super softs the entire race. Obviously, expecting the rain, he's either going to have to switch to mediums or he's anticipating a stint on inters. See the different lines through there, and as you can see, he takes, oh my goodness, he looked like he'd shut the gap mid-apex, or sorry, mid-corner, I should say, and just slightly running it out wide, carrying a bit too much speed on the exit of Luffield. But Alfie White has been superb for Magnum Motorsports this afternoon, as is Meneghetti in 9th for Beta Julia. In the meantime, Yannis Volborn and Reuven Meshida are in. They were both running the super softs. Is this about to be a switch for them to intermediate tyres? There's a few more further down the order, as you can see from the graphic, that have switched. This Volborn trying to shut the gap to Murnau to get within 5 seconds. Remember, Lucas Murnau with a 5-second penalty. Oh. And incredibly, just as I was saying how good Diogo Meneghetti has been this afternoon, he has been given a drive-through penalty for a crash with Gino Gagiano. So we'll see if we can dig that out, but obviously that's happened off camera at some point earlier. Well, that's a shame. He's otherwise had a really strong afternoon. Now, in the meantime, Yannis Volborn is indeed on the inters. Reuven Meshida behind him is on the inters. Alfie White has switched to the inters. And in fact, he's been able to jump Daniel Benton-Reader in the pits. That's incredible, unless he made the move coming into the pits. But he's ahead. Now, the graphic is saying mediums for Benton-Reader. Oh, Benton-Reader's gone straight on in the background. And now here comes Meneghetti. Going to be so there's Gagiano just in the foreground, dueling with an infernal void. And I think, is he just going to touch him in the rear through Luffield? Yeah, just a little collision, just a little bit too close. That's a shame for Meneghetti. And Jendrik Beerhoff has just been given a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release in the pit. It's all happening. In the meantime, Murnau and Pushka are in to make their switch to the intermediate tyres. Pushka, so close. He almost made it on that one set of mediums to avoid having to stop again. The rain just didn't quite come early enough. Rain is up to 15% now, so we are at the crossover period. The track is going to be getting wetter. I think the screen just showed red wall tyres. I would be willing to bet a substantial sum of money. Not a ridiculous sum, but a substantial sum, but that will update in a moment. And we will see him on the intermediate tyres. In the meantime, Lucas Murnau is now out behind Yannis Volborn. And that's the power of having to stopping earlier. Volborn has been able to leap Yannis Volborn. Volborn hasn't been able to leap Yannis Volborn. That would be quite a feat. He's been able to leap Lucas Murnau because he stopped earlier. And obviously, this is why it's the crossover period now. The amount of time lost on those additional laps on the dry tyre mean that Murnau is behind, and remember, Murnau has a 5-second time penalty added at the end of the race, which means Reuven Meshida is currently going to take third place. And there's just been a last warning for Alfie White. I'm not sure what that was for, but maybe I'm going to stop praising the substitutes now, because I keep doing it and then bad things keep happening to them. So the less said, the better. But White still currently holding 6th, ahead of Benton Reader. But as it stands, it is a 1-2 for Holland Racing Team, and that would be enough for them to secure the Constructors' Championship. They need to score 4 more points. Scuderia Cesario, they were 50 points clear coming into this race. There will be 54 maximum points remaining after this race. And as it stands, they are currently outscoring Scuderia Cesario by 4 points. So they will, at least from my rudimentary maths, take the Constructors' title today. Murnau can still get ahead of Yannis Volborn, but obviously he's then going to have to build a 5-second gap to be able to take that place. At the minute, Meshida is losing time, but he's within that 5-second threshold on the road. Everyone is now on the intermediate tyres. Everyone has switched. Question is, when will this weather start to catch people out? It certainly has done before. Thank you for that confirmation, Max. So Alfie White's last warning had crashed Benton Reader's box entry. Okay, so there was a little bit of needle between them during the pit stop. But White is still ahead of Benton Reader. In the meantime, Murnau getting closer and closer. Unfortunately, this time he's not going to have DRS to help him. He's going to have to try and make the move. And oddly enough, Meshida is in the pits again. I wonder why that is. Doesn't seem like a super long stop either. So much for being within 5 seconds of Lucas Murnau. Murnau at least now does hold on to the podium. But Reuven Meshida has dropped back to 5th. And I did think he was on the Inters. The timing screen was showing he was on the Inters before. So that's an interesting... I wonder why he's had to stop again. I certainly don't think it would be by choice. But Reuven Meshida, who was in the fight for second place, dropping back to 5th, behind Philip Pushka, who started 14th. An incredible recovery. Now that graphic is showing that Meneghetti is on the Super Soft. Got another timing screen that is saying he's on the Inter as well. Where's Murnau? He's so close up behind him now. If DRS was active, that would essentially be him alongside and looking at trying to get the move done. These two, I imagine, should be a little bit wary of each other this afternoon now after their previous collisions. The track wetness has risen from 0 to 40% is the range now. So you can see there's a lot more twitches of... oh, and my goodness, Hendrik Beerhoff has, on that note, decided he's going to run the wet tyre. So that's interesting. We'll keep an eye on his laps and see if he feels settled and starts to put in some good times. I was just saying, you can now see the cars twitching as they try and apply the power and struggle because of the water on the track. Now, the nature of this battle changes. It is all about the wet weather prowess. So, towards Copse we go. The battle resumes under a new form. But even if Murno gets past on the road, he's going to have to work, build up that 5-second gap. Through Maggots and Becketts we go. The slightly better exit there from the higher downforce Holland Racing Team car. But Murno not able to do anything. He's got to be perfect through that complex of corners this chance when DRS isn't helping him. In the meantime, Axel Laflamme, who made his debut in wet conditions, having a much more quieter afternoon. He unfortunately got caught by João Fernando Lebao earlier in the race, and that sent him down the order. But at least still running. And a very good qualifier, it has to be said. He was up in 7th, I think it was. 8th, I beg your pardon. Lebao was 7th. So, great one-lap pace. Still working things out in the race and in wet weather. But improving race on race, it has to be said. Just staying out of trouble this afternoon. We rejoin the fight for second. Murno tucked in behind. There is a back marker just ahead of them. Jannis Volborn will certainly be hoping gets out of the way sharpish. A twitch there from Lucas Murno, trying to put the power down through Woodcut. Just try and get that little bit of advantage, try and get an extra power, an extra speed, an extra bit of traction. Just to create the momentum needed to get a move done. Through this all-important sequence of corners. Minute, Volbon just seems to have enough. That car ahead hasn't felt the need to get out of the way yet. Looks like an infernal car. Come through an ultimate chicane into the finale club corner. And we are on board with Lucas Murno now. For a moment, it looked like he was going to have the run on, but Abbey came just a little bit too soon. Infernal Void car up ahead, I think he's going to have to stay deep and stay offline before the loop, and they clear him. Goes right up now to the back of Jannis Volborn, and Murno just struggling to put the power down. You saw he felt he had the chance there and knew it was important to get the power down. But that little squirm just allows Jannis Volborn to get away. Volborn, we know, is absolutely brilliant in these conditions. Lucas Murno has his work cut out for him. Really, he needs to be looking to make this move as soon as possible, especially considering he knows he's got to add 5 seconds onto his race time. We might get some Becketts we go, and he just squeezing the throttle. It's a good exit, and he's in the slipstream. This could be an opportunity. Towards Stowe we go. What direction does Lucas Murno go? He's going to the outside. He's going to be forced the long way around, and he can't just keep in it. Well defended there from Jannis Volborn. Trying to put him offline through this penultimate chicane. Trying to switch back. Oh, and Murno, I think Volborn almost tried to get across and park, well, not park his car, but, you know, get his car on the apex just to stop Murno getting the switch back there. But that was half a chance for Lucas Murno. Very close again. Through Village and the loop. Again, a little squirm on exit. Not quite close enough as we head down Wellington Straight. Column through Brooklands and Luffield. And you can see Murno is looking pretty confident. In these conditions, he's just struggling to get the power down when he needs it to be able to get the run. But he's looking very comfortable and very confident. Now, rainfall, as you can see, still going, but it has dropped from 15 to 5%. So we will be in a similar situation where we will start to see the rain stop and a dry line appearing in these last 10 laps. We'll take a moment to say those last 10 laps started by Pascal Polens, who's now 26 seconds clear of his teammate and has just driven flawlessly this afternoon. We've barely seen him. Here comes Murno down the Hamilton Straight into Abbey. You just keep one eye on the gap back to Philip Pushka. So obviously, if these two are fighting, might bring Pushka into play. The benefit. And Murno! Murno makes a mistake and goes wide. And that is a huge, huge moment. Just coming through the loop, gets a little bit wide onto the grass. He just has to wait for the car to roll onto the runoff. And now Lucas Murno has got 1.6 seconds. In fact, even more than that now to make up. And that brings Philip Pushka even closer. There's a big mistake there from Lucas Murno. Oh, and incredibly, Yannis Volborn has been given a drive-through penalty. And so the reasoning has been partly explained by Max in chat, but the reasoning from race direction is brake checking, essentially. So he was driving intentionally slow. He was trying to back Lucas Murno into Pushka and Meshida. And essentially what caused that off from Murno is essentially some brake checking in between Village and the loop. So we'll try and get that again for you in a second, because I must admit I missed that. Was just checking the timing sheet and look up and Lucas Murno is off the track. But because Yannis Volborn was already on his final warning from previous incidents, he now has a drive-through penalty. So that changes the complexion of things quite interestingly. I might have to do some very quick last-minute maths as well to try and see if it still means Holland Racing Team will take the title. So, drive-through to serve. So that does mean that Lucas Murno, Philip Pushka and Reuven Meshida, I imagine, will all get through during that drive-through. I think White is too far back, but then it's about how much time Volborn can make up. You can see Murno has gotten back up to him quite quickly. Murno, I think, must be aware that he doesn't actually have to pass Yanis Volborn on the road. He will be going in. His biggest concern will be the gap to Filip Puška. So is Volborn going in this lap? No. And that is interesting. And Volborn wasn't going to make it easy. And I do wonder if Volborn is going to just still be a little bit of a roadblock for Lucas Murno for this lap as well, in the hope that Puška, because the gap is almost 5 seconds now to Puška. Hope Volborn doesn't do anything that gets his penalty elevated, let's say that. But I can see Murno is immediately climbing over the back of Yanis Volborn. Through the loop we go. Can Murno put the power down? He almost does. You can see how close he is. In fact, he's got a great opportunity now. The slipstream will help him. Down the Wellington Straight. Is he going to have a look into Brooklands? Murno pulls out. No. Just can't quite get it done. They go side by side into Loffield. He's going to be on the outside now. Tries to hang it round the outside. And Volborn runs in wide. And the gap to Filip Puška is now 3.5 seconds. And typically you have to serve a penalty within 3 laps. So I imagine Volborn is going in this lap. And he's going to make this last lap the most slow and awkward lap for Lucas Murno. Through Maggots and Beckett's we go. In the meantime, Meshida is less than a second away from Filip Puška. Remember, Meshida stopped again. He's done 1 extra stop, so his tyres will be a little bit fresher than Puška's. So there's a battle brewing there. And considering how this is going, that battle is likely to be for a podium spot. So here is Volborn. Surely he's going in. Apparently not. I wonder, he has to surely serve that very soon. But the gap is now down to 3 seconds, and Murno's going to have a look. And honestly, Murno is probably going to be getting very frustrated behind the wheel of that Cesario. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's more contact. Just has to try and stay calm. And there we can see the 2nd through to 5th were briefly all in the same picture. So, Murno trying to dive out maybe and catch Volborn off as a Velocita bails out of the way. But incredibly, the gap is now only 1.6 seconds. When does Volborn come in? And when is he going to get called in? It's going to be a fascinating few laps. As it might just create a 3-way fight for the last 2 podium places. As many mentioned, it doesn't cover Volborn in glory particularly. Is it now? It's still not now. Surely there has to be a call that says you need to serve this now. Usually it's within 3 laps you have to serve a penalty. But look at how much he's managed to shut the gap, how effectively. Because of his blocking, it is now less than a second. And Murno is going to be furious. And this is obviously going to mean that Yanis Volborn is resigned to 5th place as a bare minimum. Oh, and to be honest now, it's getting even more egregious. And I'm surprised we've not heard anything more from race control. In the meantime, this has not just pushed up Pushka, Meshida's right on the back as well. So at the minute, Murno is net P5 because of his 5-second time penalty. And the thing is now, it's going so slowly, I can see there being a collision or two. So, through Maggots and Beckett's we go once again. Poland's up ahead, clear now. Not having to deal with any of this. So, can Murno look to make a move? He's got Pushka behind. Murno going to try and come round the outside. Hasn't managed it this time. And Volborn's still not in. Oh, yes, he is. There we go. And now Lucas Murno has got to put his foot down. And it's not pretty what we've just seen Yannis Volborn do. But you also can't argue he's done it effectively. I don't agree with the fact that he's done it, but my goodness, a gap that was over the 5 seconds now sees Lucas Murno just 4/10 away. In these 5 laps, Lucas Murno has to try and make 5 seconds. So he's going to be hoping that Reuven Meshida tries to put a move on Pushka to slow down Pushka. But I wonder if that's the last we've heard of that from Race Control and Yannis Volborn. Anyway, we have a few laps to go. What an afternoon this has been. It's been drama all throughout, and I have to say, coming up for almost 2 seasons of WMSC, I have never seen anything quite like that. Robin, you've missed an interesting one this afternoon. So, Pascal Polans, as long as he can keep it on the tarmac, I have every faith that he will. He's had a fantastic afternoon. He's looking nailed on for the win. The question is, can Lucas Murno build the gap to not just finish in second, but finish on the podium? And will Reuven Meshida, with his fresher intermediates, look to make a move to recover the second place that he lost all those laps ago? In the meantime, just for a little bit of extra, the rain has stopped falling. Now, with the time remaining, I don't think anyone's going to be switching to dry tyres. But the rain has stopped, so it's not going to be getting any wetter. We may even see a little bit of a dry line appear in the final couple of laps. Yeah, and I've got to say, I've not seen as passionate a reaction to anything that we've witnessed in WMSC as we have with that. So at the minute, Lucas Murno has not been able to open the gap beyond a second to Filip Pushka. And I must admit, earlier in the race, I was preparing my questions thinking, oh, well, Poland's talk about how clear he is. Volborn and Murno, obviously, they're going to have had that fight. How do you question them on that? And now there's a chance that neither of them, neither Murno or Volborn, are going to be in our interviews with the drivers at the end, as we always interview the top 3. Now, I am going to do some quick maths in the background, just see how this does affect the constructors. As mentioned, Holland Racing need to score 4 more points than Scuderia Cesario to secure their 2nd consecutive constructors title. Up until that point, up until that drama and Volborn losing his places, that was going to happen. So from my rudimentary workings out, Poland's will score 10, Volborn will score 4, which obviously means they get 14. Murno will score 5. Knezovic will score 1, which means they score 6, which means, as it stands, they will still take the Constructors' Championship this afternoon. Murno, only chance he's got, really. And even then, I don't think it's going to be enough. Even if he finishes second, they will score 9 points for the 14 that Holland Racing Team will score. So unless Volborn drops down the order or Poland has a moment, it does seem like Holland Racing Team are going to go back-to-back in the Constructors' Championship. They will be over 54 points clear of their nearest rivals with 54 to go. But what a breathless afternoon it has been. It's been one thing after another. If anything, this has been the quietest period, and we've still got the top 3 running within a couple of seconds of each other, and the leader of that top 3 with a 5-second time penalty. Pushka doesn't have to take too many risks at this point. He knows he's sat in there for second. And let's just highlight Filip Pushka. Remember, he started 14th this afternoon. Did some excellent work in that first stint on his medium tyres. Made some clean overtakes, got up into the top 5 very quickly. Ran those medium tyres as long as he possibly could. Almost trying to make them last until the rain came. He didn't quite, but despite that, he's been able to steer clear of the drama and looks like he's going to take second place ahead of Reuven Meshida. Meshida will be slightly disappointed, I imagine. Obviously, he was ahead and managed to get ahead of Yannis Volborn earlier in the race, but then ran wide on Copse, had a spin, but essentially took him out of it. Surprise Meshida with the slightly fresher inters hasn't tried to make more of a move on Pushka, but obviously he's conscious he'll want to stay within 5 seconds of Murno as well to ensure he gets that third place. And absolutely, as mentioned in the chat by Paul Muller, Alfie White on for 6th place. Had one moment, a warning for a moment with Daniel Benton Reader in the pits, but other than that, he's been superb. And as mentioned before, Alfie White is going to be racing for Velocita for the rest of the season. So, Paul, I imagine you're quite happy at that prospect. And as we start the final lap, I will just mention, because there's not been an opportunity all the way through, and it was mentioned in chat before, that yes, we've got 3 new teams coming next season. Vanguard Engineering have been announced as the replacement for Optimum Esports. Vanguard Engineering have a sister team, a US-based entry called United Club Racing. That's a brand new team. And then Bravo Snow Shatton, who were due to come this season, but in fact are joining next. They're, I believe, an all-Brazilian team with former SCMM driver Gustavo Fragoto and the current Magnum driver João Fernando Labau. So at the minute, we have provisionally 12 teams planned for 2025, which is superb, and it's great to see for this series. What has been great to see this afternoon is, well, actually, a man we've not seen very much of. Pascal Polens took pole, led off the line, and we've barely seen him. It's been a professional, consummate drive from him, and his second win of 2024. Pascal Polens wins at Silverstone. What a result it is. 40 seconds clear of Lucas Murno. A superb, superb drive indeed. Just wait for these final 3. Will we see any last-minute moves? At the minute, Lucas Murno is going to drop down. In fact, he might even drop down beneath Yanis Volborn, looking at the way he's closing in. It's going to be very close to see what the gap is over the line, because there's Volborn in the back of your picture. He's absolutely charging up. Murno needs to push. But Murno crosses the line second. However, he has a 5-second time penalty. Pushka will take second. Meshida will take third. And Volborn crosses the line, and we'll have to wait until after the race, annoyingly, to see what the interval was. I'm not actually sure. I'm not sure. Has Volborn still managed to finish ahead of Murno? We'll leave the controversy for another time, because you have to say a round of applause for the substitute Alfie White, only his second race in WMSC and his first for Magnum Motorsports. He takes P6. What an incredible result for him and the team. Great for their fight for sixth in the Constructors. In the meantime, Daniel Benton-Reader, another solid result. Better Julia scoring well. Whereas Alexander Knezovic, who is confirmed as leaving Scuderia Cesario at the end of this season, will pick up an extra point, but it is unfortunately not going to be enough to stop Holland Racing Team becoming two-time WMSC Constructors champions. There is Pascal Polens. What a fabulous drive from him. And these are the provisional results. So, Pascal Polens wins. Lucas Murno has a 5-second time penalty. What we do know is Philip Pushka will inherit second, and Reuven Meshida will inherit third. Yanis Volborn, I'm not sure if he will inherit fourth or if he remains fifth. That is the only bit we're unsure of. What we do know is Alfie White is sixth, behind Daniel Benton-Reader, Alexander Knezovic, Victor B, and Gino Cajano. In terms of the remainder, we have Gabriel Peckley in 11th, Axel Flam coming home 12th in the end, Gonzalez Cativo marked as DNF but finishing 13th. Must admit, I did not catch that. João Fernando Lebao ahead of Diogo Meneghetti. A solid substitute performance from him. Misha Smith 16th ahead of Jendrik Beerhoff, who we believe that's going to be his last performance of the season before making way for Alfie Smith. Mateus Machado and Mauricio Quercio DNFing. In fact, Quercio black flagged earlier in the race. Well, it has been a very eventful afternoon, but we're going to start with the person who it probably wasn't that eventful for. Pascal Polens, a fabulous drive this afternoon. We didn't see much of you, to be fair, but great work. How was that for you?
Well, as you said, it was quite a lonely race, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind it too much.
No, I imagine you didn't. Obviously, great performance in qualifying. How much were you aware that the rain might ruin the rest of the session and it was important to get a hot lap in early?
Well, I thought that it's at least a possibility because we had the same thing in Hungary, I think. So yeah, I was really pushing on that lap. Janis was also asking if Tops was going to be flat or not, and I said it is. He didn't go flat, I did, and yeah, I think that's where some of the advantage of me is laying.
Obviously, you knew that rain was a possibility, and I know that you do a lot of the work on the setup. How much did you kind of set up the car with rain in mind?
Not at all, to be honest. We just did the setup that it's as fast as possible in the try, and so far it always really worked out well in the rain, so yeah, we didn't really change too much, except we raise the front wing when it's raining, but yeah, that's just a bit of balance.
Well, no, it was a fabulous performance from you. Obviously, once you kind of got clear, it didn't seem like you were bothered too much this afternoon. And obviously, your second one of the year, also a wet weather race. Would you be happy with getting a slight Rain Master label?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't mind, but the years leading up to this year, it was always Janis who was the Rain Master, so to say. But yeah, maybe this year's cars are better for me in the rain. But also, Janis always has his fair share of controversy, so yeah, let's just wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, how obviously you're in the chat with him. How much were you aware of what was going on in his fight with Lucas as it was going on?
Oh well, I think I had quite the front row seat because I got all the reactions all the time. Also, when the penalty came out to him, I was tempted to turn down my radio. So it was.
Yeah, I imagine there were a few choice words when that was given.
Exactly. Maybe he gets some community service.
Well, well, it's what the pinnacle of motorsports does. So I feel like it's what we should do as well. Absolutely. No, but brilliant drive, Pascal. Very congratulations. Great drive indeed.
Thank you.
Philip, to you now. Obviously, your day didn't start very well. So am I right in thinking you disconnected just ahead of qualifying?
Yeah, the game just crashed as the session progressed. So worst timing you could imagine, and especially with the weather conditions that were coming. But yeah, I couldn't do anything anymore. So P14 in the end, qualifying, or P13. Yeah.
And then obviously you still managed to make the best out of it. And I imagine, was it your plan to try and stick on those medium tires until the rain came? Was that your original strategy?
Yeah, I mean, that was the wish. They were going off a bit. I think they were still good to drive another 10 laps, but the pace was just too bad and I was losing too much time. Hope that the rain was not coming as heavy as it did. So the one stop I think would have worked out as well, maybe for the podium on merit, if it would have stayed dry. But yeah, in the end, I think P2 was the maximum anyways. I think Pascal was too fast here. So yeah, happy.
No, I think you've definitely been able to maximize your points from that starting position, and obviously the first stint was vital. You pulled a lot of good moves and made some good progress there. I imagine towards the end it was just a case of trying to sit in behind. I don't think you were trying to attack Lucas, knowing he had the penalty.
No, no point. I mean, I knew he had the penalty, so why should I risk it? I did see that the guys were pretty aggressive towards getting a move done, so. I think if I would have tried, maybe there would have been another DNF or penalty or whatever. So I think this was a good choice.
Absolutely. And a great result in the end. Congratulations on your P2.
Yeah, thank you.
Reuven, unlucky this afternoon. It seemed like you were very much in the fight for P2. What happened on that moment on the exit of Cops?
To be honest, just a skill issue. But yeah, today was shocking. I was like 3 tenths down. Then with less grip, I was just 3 tenths slower today. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Also, I just spun 3 times today. And also for the first stop on the Inters, I didn't get the ring setting right. So I pitted again to reset it, which was I think the best decision of today. I still got P3, but this was probably my worst ever drive for a podium.
I mean, to be fair, it's not too bad then if that's one of your worst ever drives, but you've still got P3. That's pretty good. I did wonder why you stopped again. So obviously wing settings, it's good to know it at least wasn't damage you were dealing with. So that's something, I suppose. And then, yeah, in terms of the end of the race, obviously you were in behind Lucas with the 5 second. Were you tempted to try and attack Philip, or were you just sitting in behind to make sure you didn't lose out on the 5 second window that was behind Lucas?
I mean, I kind of forgot that Lucas had the 5 seconds, so so I was